Hazbin Hotel. Not usually the sort of entertainment we'd cover on this channel, but I'm actually kind of interested in this one, largely because of the story of the creator, which went from making YouTube videos, as I am right now, and getting a full scholarship, quote-unquote, from Amazon to make the show of their dreams. And that's a really cool thing to think about. It's a bit of a transformation of the modern-day entertainment process, from YouTube to television. And that's gotta be pretty cool, right? That's gotta produce something pretty neat, right?
Gotta be excited. Imagine all those resources, what you could do with them.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, too. Normally, this is definitely on the woker side of the shows we normally cover.
A little bit.
And the creator certainly is of a certain persuasion, as is illustrated by the fact that we rewrite the Bible pretty heavily at the opening of the first episode, and a lot of people have been covering this. A lot. And very, in somewhat hyperbolic terms, I will say as well. It's like, oh, they make hell cool and the demon good, etc. And they kind of do, but not from the perspective of really like, oh, hey, Satan good, live Satan. More like, everyone's gay in hell now. Everyone's gay, everyone's weird. It seems to focus primarily on domestic abuse and other such things.
Don't worry about that, this is coincidence, okay?
It's a weird show, because the opening gambit is that Lucifer was actually a pretty nice, chillax dude, who just wanted to give people gifts of free will, etc. And was like, oh, everything's so boring in heaven. Let me introduce evil to the world. And so he does. And then he's
Let me just introduce this thing. Don't worry about it. And then it disrupts harmony and causes chaos. Don't worry about it. He's just misunderstood, though. He's just a good guy. He just wanted to show them something.
Yeah, see, a lot of the problem of this whole, like, it's hell, but they're totally good guys, LMAO, is that they're not. And that Lucifer is at best a retard. And he's certainly not a tragic hero that he's portrayed as. And to be fair to the show as well, they definitely do show that hell is a pretty awful place with a lot of awful people. Even though, weirdly enough again, the awfulness is delivered in such an odd way. Like, half of it's played off like jokes, half of it's very serious. You go from making fun of a dude with a knife in his eye, like a really like Cartoon Network style, 90s humor, funny molestation, haha, to a really serious plotline about domestic abuse and toxic relationships. It feels like you said, Kyle, and one moment, the show is trying to teach you a lesson about trust and friendship and saying sorry, and the next, they're talking about how many dicks they can probably suck through their anal cavities.
It's like the show doesn't know what it wants to be. It's like, you'll watch this, and you'll be like, this is a kid's show. And then 5 seconds later, it's like, and then I got fucked to death. And it's like, oh, okay. And it shows, like, the thrusting and everything. And it's like, what do you want to be? Do you want to be a kid's show, or do you want to be, like, an adult comedy? Like, what are you?
It's very weird, because okay, so there's many songs. There are many songs of varying quality, which we'll get to in a second. Yeah. But there's a song where they're singing about forgiveness, like, oh, just say sorry. And this is the idea of repentance, because Hazbin Hotel is a place for the sinner's souls to be redeemed, possibly go to heaven. This is to avoid the extermination of the devils, which happen yearly, but now will happen in 6 months' time, where the angels come down and just randomly kill a few demons for shits and giggles, it appears. In fact, the angels themselves say that it's practically for shits and giggles. The backstory is porous at best, but it's a very simple message, right? Okay, you fucked up, you say sorry, people forgive you. Okay, this is a message for 8-year-olds. 5 seconds later, we're watching one of the characters get fucked by like a squeaky toy by a werewolf.
And it's squeaky. Squeak, squeak.
And it's actually squeaking, yes.
And it's like, oh my god, like, the show goes from, like, topic to topic, and it's not very coherent. It'll just transitions quickly, and then it's, like, into that. To the point where they'll even do that with songs, where you'll just be watching, so they'll be singing all of a sudden, and it's like, okay, we're singing now? It's a musical? Okay.
And this is definitely where the weakness of the format comes into play, because they were clearly told that they needed to make a 24-minute episode format, even though what they were planning would function best in 10 to 15 minutes at absolute tops. And so, segments feel stretched, like things are added with no real apparent reason, and it's really blatant that they're just trying to pad in an extra minute here and there to meet the arbitrary runtime.
It really does feel that way when it comes to a lot of the stuff. Like, the pacing is weird, because for a moment you'll watch an episode and it'll be like, it'll move the plot along, and then all of a sudden it just stops. And now it's like switching gears, and it's like, we're watching this character do this thing for like the entire episode. And then it ends, and you're like, oh, okay. So we're not going to move on with the main plot. We're just going to sidetrack randomly.
Like, there are sudden segments where we just... Like, the whole demons in hell are overpopulating, and so the angels are coming to exterminate them once a year. Alright, so that's the overarching threat, right? The angels would come down and kill everybody, even though they only kill like 16% of the population. And presumably, seeing as the demons can have children, it rises rather rapidly, but details. That seems to be the big bad, and yet it is just dropped. It disappears. Like, beyond episode 1, I don't think it's mentioned again. It's like, okay. Now what?
Yeah, it sort of just moves on to other characters and their relationships and their problems and their quirks. And it just focuses on that. See, the issue is the show should be constantly reminding you about the threat with it looming in the background while it establishes the characters. But this show isn't competently written, so it just sort of... It's like, okay, we'll put that on pause. We introduced the idea that there's a threat, so obviously the obvious audience is going to be like, oh, impending doom. But in actuality, it's just on hold.
Again, it's the problem of you need to pick what you're focusing on. Because again, in a YouTube series where it might be months and months between each episode, people aren't going to necessarily remember. It's more like the overarching threat, right? But these are consistent episodes. Like, that whole, angel invasion of mass extermination is pretty gosh darn important. And if they just wanted to focus on the characters, which it kinda seems like they want to do more, and also not really at the same time, they should have just picked one of these. Are you going to deal with the angels, or are you going to deal with the characters? And that would have made it flow a lot better. Because the subplot with Angel, or whatever her is called, I don't mind it. It's domestic abuse. It's a person who's living a really shitty life, understands that it's shitty, but only gets in deeper because they don't know a way to break the vicious cycle. A lot of domestic abuse, a lot of terrible shit, a lot of a fake front of strength when in reality they're very vulnerable. Alright, I can get behind this. It's a bit basic and it's delivered with the subtlety of a 10-ton hammer to the nuts, but I can get behind it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. What this show should have done is screw the angel plot, the extermination thing. Just put that off, introduce the characters in the world, and then establish the, big doom threat later, when you can focus more on it.
Yeah, honestly, I think they could have done this the other way around and set up the beginning 4 or 5 episodes focusing on the characters and their plot lines and why they're there and why we should care about them, and then go, oh, by the way, the angels are moving up the timetable. You've only got 6 months until they come back and eradicate you, because now you've got a connection to the characters. See, They really did get that all backwards, because to begin with, it's, oh, big bad, plot, extermination, and then you kind of forget about that because it's not mentioned for an hour, and so the characters aren't really under threat, whereas if you had developed a relationship with the characters first, and then got told that they might get exterminated, you'd care a lot more.
Yeah, you'd actually have a reason to care, but they sort of just bypassed that entirely.
Yeah, it's poorly structured in that regard, and poorly structured is a bit of a watchword.
Oh my, yes.
The songs.
This show is, oh my god, not just the songs, but the switching tracks. It does that, where we'll be watching an episode and it switched tracks into a song, and the song is just to illustrate what they would have said, because it's just the dialogue. And the lyric choice. Now, if you're a fan of musicals, which I know Arch definitely is, you're gonna be kind of cringing a bit here, because a lot of the lyric choices are just really bad.
See, the songs are quite weird in many ways, because there's about 2 songs per episode, and as a fan of musicals myself, I think, okay, this is pretty cool. And then they start, and it's weird, and they're just talking to music. And then it gets into an actual song. And for a moment they're like, okay, right, this isn't bad. This is flowing pretty well. And then by choosing the weirdest words imaginable, they shatter the entire flow. It's like they've got almost like a rap lyric going, where everything is rhyming and it's sounding smooth and interesting and you're hanging on to every word. And then they pick a word that is just not compatible with the one preceding it. And you're just sitting there like, okay, now I've been pulled entirely out of this, because now I'm thinking of the word that would fit better in the place of this. Why did you do this?
Yeah, the lyrical choice is weird, or the fact that they randomly they like to use a lot of swear words on the show. Obviously, they're in hell, right? So they should. But when they're like, well, I can't remember one of the songs were like shit burger or shit something, and it broke the entire song. It's like, why did you do that? Like, you just forced that line in there to make it vulgar. Like, yeah, you can have vulgarity and that works well, but you can't just force it in every sentence to try to make it fit. It just feels awkward. It takes you out of the whole experience.
Yes, there's definitely some lyrical choices here that should have been a lot better, that they've just bumbled. They've just bungled it completely in some of the songs. And in fact, in every one of the songs, this is a recurring pattern. You really get into it for a second, and then they say something really dumb that pulls you right the hell back out of it again. It's like... It's kind of like they thought to themselves, okay, what if we make a Disney song, but then we fuck it up halfway through because funny?
It kind of does feel that way. From the beginning of the show, when the first song kicks in, it's very Disney. Like, the inspirations are very hard. And then other songs, you can feel different inspirations from different, more rock and other sort of genres. But it just doesn't quite. It just feels weird. I don't know. And especially when they do those duo songs where you have a song battle between two characters. The final episode we watched, there was one of those where there's two characters singing their different songs, and it just doesn't mesh well either.
It doesn't. Like, there's a lot of off choices there, and kind of in the dialogue as well. Like, this show is... we need to come up with an own term for, wokest animated entertainment. Because I've watched a few of these now. I watched the goddamn Harlequin series. I was like, okay, let's see how this is. And it's not even that it's overtly political, even though in this case it is. Like, angels, conservatives, bad, etc. The hell is populated entirely by people of color, which is a commentary, certainly, and gay people.
Don't worry about it.
See, everyone has made this joke, but the thing is, it is actually genuinely a little bit confusing. Like, you've made hell, and yet, what's bad in hell? Like, okay, there's a lot of domestic abuse between the gay couples. Alright, I see. Are you trying to make a point here? No, it's just, that's how it is. Alright.
Weird choice, yeah.
There's a lot of violence for no particular reason. There's an unclear structure, they're talking about the souls. Do the souls matter? Because apparently they give you power. Okay. Can the demons give birth? Apparently they can. The population of hell is too large, so the angels must exterminate them, which the angels look like demons, of course. But why? Is there a finite amount of place in hell? Is it going to start overflowing? The angels say they can't possibly escape hell, so it's not like they can threaten heaven or anything.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Because the story contradicts itself multiple times. Because the angels are like, we just do it for shits and giggles. But the demons say that hell is overcrowded and it's overpopulated. And in the beginning, the show says hell is going to overflow. And so the angels, in order to prevent the demons from overtaking and overwhelming all of creation, they have to exterminate them. And so the show can't pick what message or what story is what it wants to stick with. And it keeps flip-flopping, in the middle of telling it. There's no world building whatsoever in this story. Anything that gets established, it contradicts later on.
The problem is, too, the demons apparently can't... demons can't kill the angels. Or they haven't tried for some reason. And yet they kill one of the angels. And it's heavily implied that one of the powerful demons did it. Okay. But in that case, the problem isn't hell overflowing. It's the individual demons getting too much power. So instead of just randomly exterminating stuff, surely this should be an assassination gig, right? Because the power is the problem. The lesser demons can't even hurt the angels, apparently.
At least that's what it's established now. We'll see if that contradicts itself later, but yes.
it's the world building needs quite a lot of work as well, and I suppose you could easily argue that it isn't, that's not really the point, that the world building isn't really the point of the show, and yes, it kind of isn't, but because the characters are supposed to be more of it, I guess, but
I mean, in order to have good characters, surely you want to have a good world for them to be in.
yes.
Because the world should affect the character.
And the only character I'm actually unironically interested in now is the gay twink. Because at least he's got an abuse story. Like, okay, I can see where he's coming from this. I can see how he's having a trouble breaking away from this. He's got the abusive partner. He's stuck in this lifestyle. He's convincing himself that he likes it so as to not go crazy, etc. This is kind of cool. The other characters, a bartender with a gambling issue. All right, sure. The, oh god, what was his name? What was his name? The snake?
Serpent, like, the whole thing is that it's supposed to be serpentine.
Serpentious, because it's combination of the words serpent and pretentious.
Yeah, Serpentious.
Yes, Serpentious. So he's not really doing much. The other Spanish chick who hangs around the daughter of Lucifer, she's just hanging around daughter of Lucifer because she's like, I really love you. It's like, the rest of the characters, weirdly enough, have way less of heavy-duty backstories than the twink. And I imagine if you're going to put this in hell, it should be to explore the darkest shit, right? And the twink is definitely some dark shit, but I expected a lot more of that. Like, I'd expected something like a person who gets off on killing people or something. Like, how do you redeem that? Or you've got Adolf Hitler wandering in there. It's like, how do you redeem him?
Yeah. What's the argument there?
Questions like that.
And maybe the show will tackle it at some point, but yeah, because realistically, how do you redeem somebody like Adolf Hitler? Yes. How does that redeemable? I want to see the writers actually tackle that question, because I'm curious, because they posed it now, because they even said so in the show that everyone can be redeemable. How do you redeem in the show's logic? Because the show claims, how do you redeem a pedophile? Can you? Is that even possible? Personally, I think not so. But the show seems to think that it is possible.
Because that's the interesting thing. If you're going to put a show in hell, where the central theme is redemption via this hotel, then surely that's an excellent opportunity to tackle some really heavy and interesting issues and come at them from a potentially very deep and interesting philosophical standpoint as well. And that is kind of completely missed so far.
Yeah, kind of just, like, it's weird, right? Because it does have some of that darkness with the abuse story. But then you have episodes where it's like, trust fall, and they do a trust fall joke for about, like, way too fucking long. Holy shit. That scene lasted, like, 5 minutes. It should have been, like, a minute. Oh, my God.
Like, there is some neck-snappingly sudden juxtapositions here, where you go from, is this a children's cartoon show, to, I'm going to put some drugs in your drink and rape you like a squeaky toy.
Yes, that's what happens in this show, and it's so weird, because it's like, because we're watching this and I'm like, Arch, is this a kid's show? And then the next second, like, there's like a rape thing that's gonna happen, and the bartender has to save the twink from being raped.
Yes, like, it is unironically whiplash-inducing at times.
Oh my God.
The show is written like a heart attack, like all of this type of wokeist animated entertainment. There is not a single, solitary, consecutive second even of silence in the entire show. That is, you know how in old sitcom TV shows there was like, they'd make a dumb joke and then they'd just look at the camera, it's like, please laugh.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's a point in that. That's the comedic timing. That's the laugh track. That's the, like, I said something funny. Think about it. Ha ha ha. You don't.
Oh yeah.
You don't have a moment to think about it here. The joke is there. It's gone. We're over on something else now. It's date rape now. Like, okay, shit. What about that? Okay, well, we're done about that. Now we're singing a song about being assholes together. All right, okay, I can engage with this. Nope, now we're in a gunfight. Like,
Now we're in a gunfight. Now we're in another song about, like, why this person did what she did. Because in order to reveal... Oh my God, I hated that. So there's the point when they're trying to figure out who killed the angel, right? And what expedited the clock for the extermination. And apparently, they do a reveal through the song. Like, what? And the song is so, like, weird because it's like, tell me why you did it. And then she does, and she reveals it. And it's basically she did it because she was trying to protect her children because she was worried for them. And she didn't want them to die. It's like, okay. But because you're doing it through a song, it's like, it's really hard to follow because just before then, there was another song between, like, a song battle between two characters, and like in between there was a point when Alistair was like, oh, go follow him, little egg dude, and like the pacing just goes up and down, and it's lightning quick, and it's just back to back, just constant myriad of shit being thrown at you from the beginning of an episode to an end.
And again, despite the Formula One pacing, they still don't manage to get a whole lot of plot in there.
God, no, they really, really don't. Like, what they did in the second episode is they immediately introduced the V plot line with this V Corporation thing, and the TV dude and his rivalry with Alistair, and this other abusive guy and his control of the Twink. And it's like,
think of it, I think they introduced a brand new plot in every single episode.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I think what the writers have done here is they've written out the story in advance. They're like, okay, these are all the character plots, but we have to introduce them back to back to back. We can't get settled in with the character. Like, and if you watch some TV shows, you know, they'll introduce a new character and they'll let you settle with that character. Like when, you know, a TV show introduces like an alien that joins the party in like a Stargate or Star Trek show, it gives a couple episodes to feel out the character, and then they move on, right? They pace themselves. You get to learn this character, a little bit about them, how they work with the team. Maybe there's some conflict, but then they resolve the conflict. In the episode, they introduced that Serpentius guy. He's like basically introduced, and his conflict is resolved, and now he's just a part of the party.
Yes, because in the first episode, we're introduced to the extermination plotline, which is the main thing. Like, the angels are coming to wipe out the demons for the umpteenth time, even though they haven't succeeded before, but this is totally dangerous this time. Alright. In episode 2, we're introduced to the rivalry between the TV face and the radio demon. In episode 3, we're introduced to the dead angel subplot and the mummy who was like, well, I was just being a mummy bear and I had to tear the angel's head off. And in episode 4, we're introduced to the Twink's domestic abuse thing. Unironically, every single one of these 24 minutes episode has introduced a completely separate plotline.
Yep. For each character. And without really tying them together very well. Other than the fact that they're all at the Hazbin Hotel, other than the fact that the core central character is Charlotte, like...
And even then, well, is she the core central character? What is Charlie doing?
She's supposed to be. But, like, she just disappears for, like, most of this. Like, she's not really involved in the story. She sort of just disintegrates. And it really becomes about the other characters. And she's just kind of this annoying little twat in the story. It's what she feels like.
Oh, she's the like, naive do-gooder.
She's the naive do-gooder who's becoming the comedic relief and like the joke of the story, despite the fact that she's part of the central plot. So it's like one of those things where it's like, oh my god, show, what do you want? And show's like, show don't know. Show has no idea what show wants.
Show not entirely sure what it wishes to do here.
Show is an amalgamation of poorly thought out ideas executed very poorly.
I'm sure this is basically some sort of entertainment for a very specific bunch of people who have ADHD. Unironically, I think this is what we could call this entire style of entertainment. The ADHD entertainment. Because there is no 2 seconds to be bored here. Like, you don't get to be by yourself and you're in a monologue for a second or two. It's
not a fucking moment.
It's something new all the time. Maybe that's it. Okay, the show is not aimed at adults or children. The show is aimed at adult children with mental disorders.
Ah, so it's a Reddit show. Gotcha.
Yes. In essence.
The more we know.
As the 4 episodes have told me most of what I need to know. On the one hand, I like some of the ideas it's toying with, but it's like one interesting plot line out of a total of 18 minutes of entertainment total.
80 minutes, and how many of the plot lines? 1, 2, 3, like 4. At least, I think there are 5 plot lines I can think of off the top of my head. And only one of them is slightly interesting. And what's awful about the interesting one is that the setting for the show is taking place in hell. A battle between hell and angels, basically. And the most interesting plot line is the gay twink.
Yep. But domestic abuse. That's also kind of the problem. This is...
That's boring!
This is hell. And they have... hell is just a normal society, it seems like. Hell has trash. Hell has hookers. Hell has bars. Hell is just a city, really.
Yeah.
There's nothing special to it. It's populated by people. We don't know who are people and who are indigenous native creatures of hell. There are cats, little egg creatures. There are fish people. Pigs, indeed, yes.
Yeah.
It's like hell is not a place with any sort of structure. It's just the backdropping for the stories. And here's the thing, too. I should have led with this, but I'm not restarting the video a third time. This will work well as a summary as well. This show was created by somebody who probably grew up during the period of time where the Christian conservatives were actually the oppressive force. And obviously, being Christian conservatives, they've got pretty strident views on things like religion. And a show set in hell, with all demon characters, this would have been really edgy 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, 20 years ago, this would have been like, wow, this is edgy. Now this is just run-of-the-mill. It's kind of uninspired and just kind of boring at best.
Yeah. 20 years ago, this would have been edgy. Now, this is actually punching downwards. This is the established power structure. Everyone's gay, everyone's diverse, everyone's neurodivergent.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the power structure that is today. This is the current year power. Hell, we're talking about a show that is being produced by Amazon, one of the largest corporations on Earth. There is no way to make this any less edgy and any more establishment.
Yep. It's funny. You know, when they uplift content creators, who do they uplift? Should come to no surprise at the group they pick.
Because it's a show that I think that is unironically one of the problems. One of the problems of the show is that its core identity is edgy, but it exists in a world where its edgy is 2 decades out of date.
It's too late to the party. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the overall edge of the show.
Yeah, it's like, hey, let's make fun of them, silly darn Christian conservatives. Here we sit, in 2024. Like, what?
Christian conservatives, they exist anymore?
I remember that. That was a problem when I was in school.
Yes, because that was that was the 90s for me. That's so ancient.
Yes, it is actually ancient history, and to see that get dragged up in an animated show today, it's like, hey, look, we're taking the piss out of Christianity. It's like, okay.
Okay.
But aren't we edgy, though? Nah.
Everybody's already done it, and there's honestly a lot of people who did it a lot better than you.
Yeah, I mean, the edgiest part of this show is, again, that everyone in hell is a gay twink. That's by far the edgiest show.
Yeah, I think Christians might like this show, because it honestly shows that
there are
everybody
no
they didn't
conservatives
like
in
are
hell.
in... Yeah. You know what the conservatives get to do? They get to gun down the case.
Yes, they go to heaven. They go to heaven. Hey, unironically, there are no conservatives in hell. You know, there are no nuclear families in hell. Like, even Charlie, has a mother and a daughter, Marie and a daddy, is in a shitty relationship. The only romance here is the 2 gays beating each other up. Yeah. I mean, if this is hell, then I can only imagine heaven is the exact opposite of this.
So it's perfect. Oh my god. What have we done?
What's
the message here? What's the message? And the show loves to push the message too, but its own message is contradictory to what they would like it to be.
The message is too old. The message is, again, it would have been edgy 20 years ago, but it's not 20 years ago, which makes the entire thing just kind of weird.
awkward. Feels all like an old timer's trying to tell you a joke, and it's like, yeah,
Doesn't
I heard
it
that one.
Just it really is like Grandpa going like, when I had to go to school, we had to walk, and I'm like, I have never walked to school, Grandpa, so I have no frame of reference. Like,
okay, Grandpa, whatever.
Exactly, like whatever, Gramps. I'm sure it was tough. And it was blizzards outside. And what about the T-Rexes, Grandpa?
What about the T-Rexes? Don't forget the pterodactyls.
That is exactly what this show feels like. Your grandpa telling you how hard shit was back in the day.
It's kind of tragic. Now I feel bad.
But it sure nails the point.